Hello and welcome. I just wanted to make making a record here of a recording project. I tried to do this before, but I ran into a lot of problems with actually getting the audio from the DAW, which is this, which DAW stands for Digital Audio Workstation, which is essentially just a computer application for recording sound and making music. And I could get my voice, I could get the picture, but I couldn't get the sound, which is what you just heard, from the DAW. So I finally figured out a way to do that. Somebody on a forum on Facebook, this DAW is called Sonar, and someone on the Sonar forum on Facebook had a fix for me, show me how to do it. And it's, in case anybody else watching this wants to know, it's this thing right here, which is a plug-in on the master bus. This is the master output of the program right here. And I've got two effects. I've got a brick wall limiter on there, which is this right here, which is just essentially a compressor that literally limits the output so it can't go past a certain frequency. And basically what you use this for is to stop distortion on this is the master output. These are all the channels. Actually, I'm only using these right here right now. But these are your individual music channels, and they all end up here. So if you have the limiter on there and it's saying, you know, it can't go past a certain point, you're stopping it from distorting. Now, but the program, I got sidetracked there a little bit. This is the program that actually allowed me to finally record the sound within the DAW itself, and it's this little free Voxango recorder that you can get online. Just Google that and you can find it. It's free. And that's that. I don't know how much interest people are going to have in this, but I thought it might be interesting even for myself to just have a record of. I've started recording a song here in Sonar, and these are the individual tracks. If you're looking in this area up here, like this says addictive drums, that's my drums. That's what that image I brought up there. I'll show you again. I click right there, and this is the drum software that's running within the DAW itself. This is an individual kit that it was recorded in a professional recording studio, and it's got many presets here, but it was what you heard playing here. I actually wrote these. I didn't write this intro part. This has a lot of beats that it comes with that you can use and tweak, make them, tweak them however you want them to be. But I just use this one right out of there. You can literally just drag and drop them out of that pane right here. Like if I wanted to use this, I could just click on it like that, drag and drop it in. There it is. Now it's in my song. But I don't want to use that, so I'm going to delete it. But that's how you do with these beats that come with the software that you can add on and buy. And then you have this software actually has its own individual drum mixer within it, where you can mix the individual components, like the kick drum. I clicked on it right there. It's on this channel. There's a volume slider for it, mute and solo, and all the different things that you can do here to tweak the sound of it. It's got its own little EQ, compression and distortion. Whether you want the more to the front or the back, I guess it was double mic. So this is the beater side and this is the front of the drum. You move that slider there, you can get a sound that's moving between those two mics. So on and so forth. It's really amazing, to me at least. And here's the individual effects that are on each thing. We've got some, like, let's go to the snare. And we'll go to effects. It's got a plate reverb and just like some room ambience apparently on it. And these have their own EQs in them, and it gets. And then you have individual EQs within the track itself. Like if I click on this track here, this is called the what is this called? Channel strip? I can't remember exactly, but it's essentially like a channel strip on a recording console, and it has its own EQ right here. This is actually console emulation, which adds just like a micro amount of distortion and coloration to the sound. Honestly, I can hardly even tell the difference switching between it, but it's got various types, like an SSL type console, a Neve, and I'm not sure what that one is, A-type. But it's got its own individual EQ here. As you can see, I flew it out there, and it becomes bigger here so you can see it. And it's got a spectrum analyzer, so watch when I start the sound. Whoops. It's not on. You'll see when the drums start right here. Spectrum analyzer will kick in for the drums. There it is. See it in the background there. Those are the frequencies that the drums are creating. Now you can manipulate them here. You know, I could grab this note, this blue thing right here, bring up the high end. I'm sure you can hear that. How tinny that got. But yeah, or drop off the bottom end. Make it sound real thin, basically. Yeah, so these EQs are on every channel, and you can literally add multiple instances of them and things. And like here's the guitar channel. I already have a high pass essentially on there, which is cutting off the low ends of the guitar. You don't need this spectrum, generally speaking, on guitars, because it's the spectrum that the bass drum and the bass guitar often occupy. I mean, you could use it. What can often happen is if you use too much of this, like in guitars and vocals or other tracks of things, is you get a lot of mud at the bottom of your sound because this frequency tends to build up. It's one of, if not the strongest frequencies, the low end, and it'll tend to build up, and you'll get a lot of mud sounding at the bottom. There won't be much definition, like between the bass drum and the bass and other things going on down low. So I always pretty much do what's called a high pass, which is letting the high frequencies up here through, but not letting these low frequencies. And that's just by turning this thing on and off and adjusting it. You can see it's making a slope there, and it's cutting out everything back here, which is essentially from, I've got it starting at 100 right there where that red is, and it's going down on a slope, cutting off everything below it there. But then, yeah, these are just some guitars that I recorded. These orange ones, and I can make these tracks like any color I want. I just happen to pick those. Like you go over here, click on this, and you've got all these colors. And then you've also, if you don't like those, you can go over here and like make your own colors. Like I could make a color for this track. Watch. If I go over there, bring this up from black, you can see it's changing right here. That's kind of similar to this base color, though. We don't want things to be too similar, so let's find something else. How about like that yellow color there? And then you just say, I think, add to custom colors, and click on it there. Bang. And there it is. I'll probably, this is often ends up being another guitar track. I just haven't gotten that far. I keep all my guitar tracks the same color, which is this color. My bass is generally that color. And you can see I'm going off what's called a template here, which if I'd started this just completely from scratch, there would be nothing here. It would look like, essentially, let's see if I can do this. I can't get them all, but it would look all just black. This whole area in here would just look black. But I have what's called a template, which I use because I frequently use the same instruments on tracks. So I'll have the drums will be here. I'll have these two guitars here. Then like this is either a lead or a fill-in guitar track. This is bass. I've left a couple other audio tracks here, and then this is actually a keyboard track that I haven't done anything on yet. You'll see if I click on here, it'll bring up the keyboard itself. This is the keyboard. You wouldn't play it from here, but these things are kind of fun. It's actually going to, if I go over, which you can't see, but if I go over to my keyboard, which is my physical keyboard, which is right next to me here, and I play it, you'll see that it's playing these notes. Watch. See those notes? So it's playing this virtual keyboard from my physical actual keyboard, which is right next to me here. Now, one thing I'm noticing as I'm playing this, I'm not sure if it's the attack of the sound or if it's at the actual where I have my buffer set, but I'm noticing a little latency, which is when I hit the keys and when I hear the sound, there's a gap. Slight. Actually, it's not that slight. It's about, I would say it's close to a second or maybe half a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into here, this edit button, and go into preferences and look and see where my buffer is set here, because that's what determines your latency. So what the heck is this thing? Driver settings. It says it's at 9.2. Let's see. You know what it might be? I think it's actually how it's cycling through this recording program, because this is actually a good buffer setting right here, 9.2. That's the latency. That's 9.2 milliseconds. That's pretty fast. So, and that's what I normally use. So it's not that. It must be that it's cycling through this recording software and giving me a little bit of latency here. That's fine. I mean, I can work around it. You can see, I don't know if you can see the notes. They turn gray when I play them on the physical keyboard. You can hear the sound though. And this thing's got a gazillion sounds in it. Here's some of them. These are just like the factory sounds, you know. Here's a different one. This is actually an emulation made by Korg of the Korg M1 keyboard, which is a famous keyboard from the 80s. And it's made by Korg, so I assume it's pretty realistic. My dad used to have an M1. I never have had one, but here's a 12-string guitar. And it's got a gazillion, like I say, gazillion different sounds in it. What's the one I was on? This one's kind of neat. Anyway, that's that keyboard. That's what's M11. That's what's on this track here. Now, when you record, if you'll notice the difference here between these, I can actually expand this so these get larger. That's smaller. That's too large. Let's see where we are here. There we go. You can see the difference between these two different tracks. This is the drum track, the green one here going across, and this is orange. This is the guitar track, this orange one. You can see how things look different here. We got a bunch of little green dots here, and then we've got these waveforms over here which look like this orange stuff. What that is, here, I'll stretch it this way too. Whoops, I went too far, way too far. What that is this is MIDI. The green dots on the drum track is MIDI data, and the orange down here is audio data. These there's another way we can look at these green dots, and that's down here by clicking on this down here. This is called the piano roll. These green dots on here are the same as the ones on here. They represent the same things, and what they are is they're essentially triggers for the drum samples that have been recorded. Like, you see this keyboard running along here? Well, it's saying that like this note here is representative of whatever this key on the piano, which is C3, triggers in the drum set. So watch what happens if I click on this key here. That's our bass drum. So anytime you put a dot there, when what's called the I forget exactly what it's called, the time bar or something is coming across here, and it encounters that, it's going to trigger that bass drum. This one up here and these two following it, anything on that line is connected to this key, which is, that's our snare drum. So watch what happens here. If I start playback, you'll see this little green line right here is going to start moving across here, and you actually, in this view, you probably maybe can't see everything. I guess you can. It's pretty simple right now. These are hi-hats up here, this line. Watch. It's pretty subtle. I don't know if you can hear that, but so watch what happens as it moves across. It's going to trigger these notes. Watch. Now, I don't know if that was exactly in sync, because like I said, I'm getting a little latency here, which is like the video's ahead of the sound a little bit. But when I'm recording, normally what you see is what you hear. As it passes over that note, you hear that hi-hat, 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 and then you hear the boom, and then this of the bass drum, and then the snare. And you can also see it being triggered here. If we were to look at this, there's a lot of different ways to look at this, but here's one. This is a visual representation of the drum set. So when I start it, you can see that these different things, drums being triggered. Watch. There's the hi-hat, bass drum, snare, and those toms. It was quick. I don't know if you can see it, but watch when it comes in again here. There it is. The snare's a little hard to see. It's kind of back there, but so that's what's happening. And I can write notes in here, down here, anywhere I want. Like say I wanted, I don't know, instead of let's say instead of just these, if you could hear these 3 snare drums, I'll start it here. So it's going to start right here, and it's going to trigger these 3 snare drums. Here's what that sounds like right now. Let's go. It goes into some toms after that, but say I wanted more of a roll here. I could put in more notes like this. This won't sound great because I'd have to tweak it a little more, but you'll hear now it'll sound more like a snare drum roll. Watch. See, instead of just the tut tut tut, the 1 2 3, it's got the snare drum roll in there. Anyway, I'm going to erase those notes, which I do just by holding right click. Just leave it as it was there. So that's MIDI information. And then this is where I recorded the guitar. These are audio wave files. Now, all that is a representation of the sound visually. And one way to look at it is like, if you're looking at this section right here, that would be louder than this little section, right? See how this section is thinner? Well, that's louder. That's one way to look at these. The bigger they are, the louder they are. You see where this one's got a line, kind of a spike there? That's louder than even this area over here, or the area after it. This area is very quiet right in here. This area, there's no sound. There's just like a thin line there. So and the thing is, you can go in and edit these files. I mean, I can zoom out. Watch this. I'll stretch this. I don't know if you could see how that was, but we're looking at the same thing here now. It's just been stretched so that we have like finer detail of the audio wave here. I could go in and like highlight a small section like that and just delete that section. Or I could go in and just lower the volume of just that tiny little section that I highlighted there, which I mean is just, I don't even know if that even time-wise, it's probably not even a second. Watch as the timeline moves across this. This is the guitar sound that you're hearing. There's a left and a right, 2 different parts that I recorded there. But you'll see there's that highlighted section right there. If you can see that, it's just a darker gray section about that wide. Watch. See, that's not even a second. It's like maybe a tenth of a second or something. But if there was a little part there of something that you didn't like, you could go in there and or that you did like, you could either reduce it or increase the volume of it. These things are very, very manipulatable. Is that a word? No. Very easy to manipulate, and you can stretch them way out to. This is literally, we're looking at one sample. This thing up here tells you what your resolution is. Now see, as I shrink it back, watch that change. See, now it's at 164 fourth note triplet. Is that what that is? I can't tell, but that's as the further I shrink it down. There's 1/16th note. Yeah, that's a chord. That's a 16th note. It's just the different resolution, but you can see how this area gets wider or shrinks. There, I'm shrinking it down. There, I'm stretching it out. It's for editing and whatnot. Now I'm going to bring these back down to a little more manageable size here as we're looking at them. So, bring this back to our console, which is the view of the individual faders and things. And let's see, we're on the master there. Let's come over here. You can see as this thing changes, because different tracks will have different different things assigned to them. Like this has this is the drum track. I think this is like the standard set up here for tracks, and it has a compressor. It's got that EQ. It's got, I think this is some tube emulation here, and then the console emulation. And then if we go over to the master, you see this one just has an EQ on it. You can add many more things. I can go in here and say insert module, and I get a list of all these different things I can put on there if I wanted to. All kinds of different compressors, and there's saturation knob, which adds distortion, but it's not like a distortion pedal per se on a guitar. It's pretty subtle for the most part, unless you absolutely crank it. But it adds like a kind of a subtle distortion. It's another tape emulator. This thing's looks kind of cool. It's that little thing there. It's supposed to make it sound more like a analog tape. I'm going to remove that for now. And on this panel here, if I move up, you can see there's other things here. Here I can in my template, which is what I was talking about earlier, it's like how this thing launches when I launch the program. You can set it to launch how you want, and I set it to launch with these different tracks already assigned, so that I can just go right to guitar and start recording guitar, or this guitar, or put my drums on here. But then they've also got a reverb bus over here, and what that does is I've got a reverb on there. This is the effect that's actually inserted on that track, which is this, which is a reverb program, which I have set to a certain reverb preset. So then anything that I route from over here to this bus goes through that reverb program. Now watch, for example, I'm going to solo, which means play only, this guitar track. Listen to this. Okay, you hear that sounds pretty dry? Now watch what happens if I go to that track, which is right here, and I move up, and I go to the send on that track, and I'm going to send it to the reverb, which is this bus over here, which has the reverb on it. Now watch what happens. It's sending a lot. That's the level, the amount that it's sending to that. That's a lot right there. I'm going to back it off to about there. Now listen to it. Obviously, that's a lot. Once I turned it up there, that's a lot of reverb. So let's see. I think I don't want to do that right now. None. Yeah. So there's nothing on there right now. Well, thanks. Let me make sure that. Is it off? Yeah. It's back to dry. So yeah, these individual tracks have these buttons which actually appear in different places depending on where you're looking. Like this here is the same as this right here. If I'm looking down here, because actually I could take this whole section right here and put it on another monitor. Because I mean, if you're getting into large track counts, like there's only what, 1, 2, there's 8 tracks here total right now, and this is our master section. This is our metronome volume. This is something else, maybe show you later, and this is reverb. These are like the post faders for the music after it's been sent to the master or something. In any case, these are your primary faders. And say you had a session with, I don't know, 50. Now there'll be when you add more tracks, I'll just show you quickly how to add more tracks. Let's bring this down. Thin that out, so I can just come up here and say, you know what, I've got a bunch of background singers coming in today. And just for this, we'll just say we got a lot. We want this. I got 10 different background singers, and I'm going to use 10 different tracks. I'm going to use a track for each one of them. So I'm going to add 10 tracks. Watch, they're going to pop in here and here. Bam, there they are. So now I've got all these 10 extra tracks that I just added. You see they're real small. They're smaller than the previous ones right now. I can stretch them out so they're the same size. But now see, I've got this slider down here. This is where we were, and look, this is where it went up to before, 8 tracks. Well, now we've got another 10 tracks beyond that, and that's, I mean, that's really nothing. You know, especially like if you're recording a symphony or something, you could have hundreds, literally hundreds of tracks. And if you have that, you might want to put all this stuff on a different monitor. So like, watch this. I'm not sure exactly how to do this because I never do it, but I think it's right here. There. See how it went away? Now I've got just the one that was above it here. It's still there, but it's hidden down here. So like you could have just this on your main monitor, and you could have all those sliders and stuff on your other monitor. It might be easier to deal with. I'll bring them back now. Bam. But anyway, I just wanted to show that, and I'm going to delete all those for now because we don't really need them. Except they didn't go away. Let's see, maybe I have to do it here. Delete 10 tracks. Bam. There we go. Okay, so let's take this off solo. I've got mute here if I wanted to mute an individual track. Like say I wanted to mute the drums. Like, watch, I'll do it as it's playing. Bring them back in. So you've got a lot of options here. This is the record button. When you click that, that's arming a track to record. This is what's called the transport, which is essentially just your play, pause, fast forward, record. That's the record button. There's different kinds of modes of recording, which are probably more in depth than you'd want to know at this point, but I'll show you here if I can. Oops, that's not it. What the heck's going on here? There it is. These are the different modes: comping, overwrite, sound on sound, step record. I won't go into that. That's probably beyond the scope of what I'm trying to do here right now, but and just to show you, like over here, these are some of the different effects. This is the browser, which gives you access to a lot of different things. This right here are the different audio effects that I can put on tracks. As you can see, there's a lot of them. These all have drop downs like that. Like these are all the what's called uncategorized effects here, and there's a lot of them. Just there. Here's just the delays that I have. These different delays, different distortions, and I could click on one of those and add them to any track or all the tracks if I wanted to. And then let's see, where is it? These are the what's called virtual instruments, which this drum program that I brought up is one of. Addictive Drums 2 here. That's a virtual instrument in that it's, it's drums, but it's virtual. It's actual recorded drums that somebody played that are being triggered by the MIDI information, those little dots that we looked at earlier. But there's all kinds of stuff here. There's that keyboard that we looked at earlier. There's all these are synths that I have. Some of these are duplicates, but these are all synths. Only some of them don't work right now. A couple of them don't work because it was just like Roland has like a rented thing where you can. I'll show you. If I double click this and then click there, boom! It just brought that thing up. Here it is. Now if I click here, see this? Authorization has not been completed. The audio output periodically becomes distorted and reduced in volume. That's because I haven't. It has like a monthly rental basically, and I stopped it after a free trial. So it'll still make sound, but it'll often like put distortion in there or breaks in the sound. They don't want you using it for free basically. Hear that? That's adding. It was adding some distortion in there. But yeah, these are all different. Here's one that's this is actually cool. This is Roto Toms. This was free. Some guy made this. get rid of this. Here's the rototoms. Some guy went and recorded his rototoms and made this little, what's called a VST instrument of them. So I can trigger that from the keyboard. Where are they? I don't know where they are though. Let me see. Well, I could assign them to. Oh, there they are. I could assign them to whatever notes I want on my physical keyboard over here. And they've got gain controls, pan controls, reverb level, master volume. But they're actual recorded rototoms that can be triggered with the MIDI. So those are cool. I just found those actually kind of recently. They're fun to use. And these are other keyboards that I have. There's guitar simulators, all kinds of different stuff. I have different drum programs too that are actually pretty cool because I think really they all kind of do, for the most part now, they all kind of do it all. Even that one that I was showing you before, which is actually a fairly expensive program. This one came with my DAW, and what's interesting about it, I'll show it to you quickly here. Now you can do this with the one I was showing you before too, but this one, I don't know. I use this one a lot of the time just because it's simple to use, and I was used to using it. But you see this drum set here, and it's kind of transparent. And if I click on it, nothing happens. Well, what this is here is this is waiting for you to assign sounds to the drums. You can literally, I could assign anything to this. I could assign a vocal sample. So if I hit the snare, it would go boo, 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 or whatever, a guitar, anything. But I mean, you know, most of the time you're going to be using actual drum sounds. I'll just give you a quick, I think this is cool. So I'm going to come back over here to the browser, to the Browse Media section. Now what we've got here are samples. They could be anything, literally. All the sample is recorded sound. It could be the sound of a waterfall, sound of a bird, sound of a car engine, the sound of a drum set, an individual snare drum, a bass drum. These are called one-shots. That's you can see the subcategories here: cymbals, hi-hats, kick drums, different things, percussion. But let me see. Let me go to, well, there's one I'd like to show you. I got to go back here, find it. It's on here. It's going to my G drive now, which is my large drive that I keep most of my samples on. And here, under these samples, I have this, which where is it? Is it this one? I'm not sure which one it is, honestly. But this is an 80s. I downloaded this off the internet. This is 80s drums. So let me see. Kicks. Let's go with our kick first. So now I've clicked on the kicks. Now these are all the kicks that are included in this particular, we call it a pack. Now remember I was talking about this earlier? This preview slider here adjusts how much volume these things are going to have when you play them. Because I can audition these here just by clicking on them. But what I've often found is that these are too loud if you just leave it at 0 there. So I bring it down to about 12. Even that sometimes is too loud. But then now watch what happens if I just click on one of these now. There's the sound of a kick drum. It's just repeating over and over again. But that's what they do. They loop. So you can hear them, get an idea what they sound like. So there's one. Here's another one. Kind of like that one. Here's another one. And so on and so forth. This one's kind of like that big 80s sound. Now watch what happens here. If I take this, first I'm going to click on the bass drum, and this is telling me that I'm on the kick and it's empty. There's no sample assigned there. So if I just click on this, hold left click, drag it over, and I can drop it on the drum itself or over here on where it says kick. Now watch what happens. See how that got solid? Now watch if I click on this. There's the sound that was over there is now in our kit here, right? So now let's get a snare sound. So we got a big list of snares. Let's see what we got. That's kind of interesting. Very gated and compressed. That one's kind of interesting. Let's drag that one. So now I'm going to click on the snare here. And now, see how it got solid? We've got our snare and our bass drum. And you just go through and keep adding. I could go to a totally different set if I wanted to and grab, because I have a few of these. They're just sample libraries that you download, you buy and download. Let's grab our hi-hats real quick. These are like 808 type sounds here. That one sounds pretty good. Let's just go with that one. Oops, wait a minute. This thing can be a little touchy. Let's see. I'm going to try to do this quickly now. Add these other parts in. There's a crash. All crashes actually. Rides, here we go. Okay, for our purposes that'll do. If I was actually designing a kit here, I would take more time, of course, and go through the different options. There we go. There's 3 toms descending. Now this thing over here is just a little pad where you can add 4 more samples, whatever. They could be anything. They could be, again, they could be more toms. They could be, you know, sound effects. Let's see, what do we got here? Percussion. I could add that on there. So now there's four of them here. See if I click that now. There's the sound we just dragged over. There's a weird little sound. Let's drag that one over onto 2. Oops. I messed up there. That's alright. It's pad 2. And so on and so forth. I'll just go with those 2 for now. You get the idea, I'm sure. So let's go back here. Now, here's the thing. Now I have this track assigned right over here. It's right here. See, I can click here and expand this so it's easier to see. But so this session drummer with the drum samples that we just added to it is on this track. So now if I add MIDI information over here, it's now going to play these drums. So for instance, I could do something like this. I could drag this MIDI information down from here. Just drag it down. Bam. And put it there. So now it's on this drum kit. Now, the only problem with this is that the location of the notes there may not coincide with the triggers on this keyboard here, which probably sounds confusing, but it just means that this drum set may not be set up on a keyboard like the other one was. So let's see what happens if we play this. Whoops, it wasn't rewound. Here we go. So there you can see the drums playing. Is it what we want? It may not necessarily be in terms of what's being triggered here, but you can see that it's triggering these. So it hit the tom, the bass drum, and then the snare, which was different than what was happening up here. Watch, I'll drag this back to the other one. I think that's different. Let's see. I don't know. Other than those hi-hat intros, maybe that was the same. But if I have the MIDI information on this track, it's playing this drum set, right? The one that we looked at first. If I drag it down here, like I did, to this track that we just made, now it's playing this drum set. See, it's the same MIDI information, those little dots, which I'm sure are hard to see right now, but I don't know, does that help at all? Let's make them a color here. Maybe you can see them a little better. It's just those dots which are triggering the samples. So that's what's happening there. And you can do that with all kinds of virtual instruments. You could put in a piano and have the dots be triggering the notes of a piano. That's the way MIDI works, is dots triggering information. So it's like, let me see. It's funny, it is on, not sure where they are here. It's almost as if they didn't show up here. Not sure why that is. Sometimes these things happen. But anyway, these dots should be showing up here. Oh, I know why. Because I'm not on that I'm not on this track. I'm showing the previous one. So I go here, pick tracks, down to session drummer. Now they're there. See, they start over here. Actually, they start before that, but they're higher up. There they are. So again, these dots are the same as these here. It's just a different way of looking at it. Anyway, I think I'm going to leave off here for now. I'm not sure. Let me see how long I went here. This doesn't even tell me, does it? That's my recording software there. But that would be my introduction to what's going on here. And see, these are actually I'll spend a little more time here. I'm going to actually move this back to our other kit, which I prefer in this instance. And I think I'll even delete this one for now. Yeah. These over here, which are audio tracks, more guitar tracks. Whoops, I did the wrong thing there. I deleted both my drum sets. I only wanted to delete the one. I must have had that one selected. I did. So, go over here. Alright, now that should just delete the one. Bam. Yes, okay. These are other guitar parts that I played. And these tracks are totally movable. Right now I have them pushed over to here because this is my song as I have it so far. And this could change. I could change drum parts or guitar parts or whatever. I'll be adding, bass or maybe some keyboards and vocals to this. But these are other parts that I recorded for that, and I haven't really, set the arrangement of the song. I could decide that. Here, I'll zoom in on these parts a little. These are the other parts. I could decide. These are like sections. As you see, these little, like this one says record 11 and record 9. Record 12 and record 13. There's 4 different sections of guitar parts here, basically, doubled. So they're stereo. There's a left track and a right track. Now watch. I'm going to grab and move these parts just by making a box, right-clicking, holding, highlighting those. Now I can move these down. I just want to focus on this. So watch, listen. So there's two parts that I recorded actually, a left and a right guitar part. So maybe I'm not sure where I want to put that. I want to listen, I want to audition. I'm going to audition the next section here. I'm going to move it off by itself here. Here's another section. And there's two more sections. I could audition them back to back like this and just let it play through. Watch. And wherever this thing is, this is the time called the timeline. Wherever this cursor is in this line is where it's going to start. So like if I click over here, I hadn't mentioned that before, I guess, it's going to start right there at the beginning of this. If I click it here, it would start at the beginning of this section. And you notice there's no drums up here yet. This is just the guitar parts. Now watch, I'm going to squeeze this down again, and you'll see if I slide back this way, here's the beginning of our song that we already listened to with the drums and stuff. And then here's the parts. I'm going to put these back in a group so they're all just butted up against each other like that. Then I'm going to shrink this down again so we can see like the whole thing at once. There it is. So basically what I got here is like the intro to, and maybe even like the first verse or so of a song. And if I click over here, that takes the cursor back to the very beginning. So I hope in future videos to show adding parts and finishing up this song. Right now this is what I've got. Little drum intro. Guitars by themselves with no drums. And the drums come in. And really this is just the same thing looping over. I've just copied this section right here. Let me show you what's actually happened here. Is all you're hearing in the guitars is these two parts. I've just copied them so that they sound like they're being played over and over again. But really, I only recorded these parts once. I'll even show you. I can just get rid of all these. I could delete these. Bang. Now there's nothing there, right? Oh, what did you do? It doesn't really matter because all they were just copies of these two. Let me zoom in a little. So now I don't have to panic. Oh boy, I deleted all those guitar parts. No, I didn't. All I have to do now, and this is done with holding control and left click. Bam. I just made a copy of this part and slid it over here. Now, watch this. I can grab both of these since it's the same part. Bam. I just copied that part and slid it over there. I need one more to fill out this measure here, so I'll just click. Bam. See, that's the same. See, it's highlighted. That's the same part, the same two guitar parts technically. Just repeat it. I can do the same thing with the drums with the MIDI information. Say this one has this particular. All these are the same. These three drums right here that I'm just highlighting, those three drum parts are all identical, except this one I put a little fill at the very end just for some variety. But say I decided, you know what, I want this part of the song to go on one more measure. Well, I could just grab this part, slide it over a measure, and then grab this part and slide it over. So now I've got one more measure of that part with the drums and the guitars right there. Now I don't think I do want that, so I'm going to delete that and just move this back. You'll hear, like, listen to the end of this drum part compared to the end of this drum part. You'll hear there's a little fill at the end of this one that's not here. So this one goes from there to, in fact, I'll just move this away so there's no confusion. Listen to the very end of this drum part. Watch. Da, 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 da. That's how it ended. Now listen how this is the same part, except I wrote a little fill at the end. Listen how the drums end on this one. Hear that little roll and some fancy stuff there. So all I did to do that was I clicked like here, oh, actually like here, and so that's putting the timeline right there on this particular MIDI drum part, right? And then, oops, I somehow got rid of my piano roll. Okay, then I went down here, and the ones that are darker here, see these light green and these darker greens? The darker greens are the ones we have selected, highlighted here. So all I did was I went into that section, which corresponds to the end of, where is that? Right here. Yeah, there's where our cursor is. So now we're looking here at the same part here, only it's like kind of zoomed in here. Right, so I just went to this section and I just changed it around so that it had, it sounded more like a fill. I just wrote in some notes like I would do this, you know. That's actually adding hi-hats, but I added some snare and bass drum, which are down here. This is our snare. If I click on that, you'll hear the snare. Click on this, you'll hear the bass drum. And I just added some notes to make it sound like this. Instead of this, hear this ending? Instead of that, now it sounds like this. Yeah, that little, and here it is right here if you want to see it visually. These notes that I put, that's the snare. These notes right here, and I just put them close together like that so it sounds like a snare roll now instead of further apart where it sounds like individual snare hits. And that's how you, it's one way of writing in. You can actually play it in on the piano too in real time on the keyboard. The keyboard now triggers the different recorded drum samples. Here's my bass drum and snare. The very end of my keyboard, the low end. And you can play it in real time if you're good at playing the piano that way. You could just go playing it on the actual notes of the keyboard, and it would record in real time here. And anyway, I think I'll leave off there. I said I was going to leave off earlier, but I got off on a bit of a tangent there. And hopefully what I plan to do is just like record most, if not all, of me finishing this song. It's called, right now I've got a title, it's called What I Lack. And I often start with just a title and then write the song around the title. Just a tool to inspire and get the ball rolling. But anyway, I will be signing off for now, and I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you.